So first, my first one is uses and purposes. So of course, for general writing, we write on social media, maybe we keep a diary, we write letters, emails, or news articles. And for academic writing, of course, the purpose will be different. We want to reach academic audience, right? So maybe that's a term paper, a report, conference paper, thesis, dissertation, or a research project. Okay, and next I think is also different about language. So yes, you're right. For general writing, it's more informal, or we can say it's semi-formal. It's not completely very informal, but it's not usually very formal. So in academic writing, we try to be formal. We want to be objective. We want to use concise language. So I don't know if you have heard of KISS, K-I-S-S, when you are doing presentation. So that's also one thing you keep in mind. Keep it short and simple. Of course, being long is pretty common, but it's not always good to be too long. So there are some examples I shared. For example, the very basic one, we don't use contractions in academic writing. So we will not use don't. We use do not. And of course, we don't use slangs in academic writing. So that's another thing that you will definitely notice between general writing and academic writing. And the last one, I think is the most important one, is about referencing and citations. So referencing and citations. So in general writing, we don't usually use referencing or citations. And in academic writing, it's very important that you cite or reference others' work in your writing. So I will talk about this later more. Okay, so that's all for the major differences. How about the similarities? So the next question is, what are the similarities between general English writing and academic English writing? Okay, so now that's the question. So if you have time, go online. It's poev.com. You don't have to capitalize PMP. /AaronStone620. And can answer this question. So what are some similarities? Now we know there are something different. How about something similar? So maybe we can bring what we have known in general English writing into academic English writing. Okay, the importance of clarity. Okay, so this is the top one, okay? And also the first one. Any other ideas about the similarities between academic and general English writing? Okay, general overview and summary. Okay, so yeah, you need to summarize some key points in your writing in some thoughts. Okay, using paragraphs, conjunctions, of course. Yeah. Okay, remember you can like others, so the one will be here if there are more likes. Okay, the purpose of getting your meaning across. So yeah, clarity or more communicative. Okay. Okay, engage the reader. So yeah, the reader is very important because we write, we need someone to read it. Okay, are there any new ideas about the similarities? Okay, so a lot of people voted for general overview and summary. So you need to summarize. You need to give an overview of what's in your writing. Okay, clear logic. Of course, logic is important. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, thank you very much. So yes, overview, summary, clarity, logic, engaging, being engaged. Yes. Okay, so thank you very much for your responses. These are very good. So I'm going to share some of my personal views. So what are similarities between general and academic English writing? So there are three. The three that I collected. So the first one will be topics. So the subject matter can be the same, but of course it can be different. in the depth, right? Because if that's a journal paper, then it's more in depth, right, than a general piece of article. Okay, structuring. So some people think that there are different structures. I think it's more similar in structures. I'm not saying they are exactly the same, but it's quite similar. So you can actually carry the structure that you use in general English writing into academic English writing. The last one is referencing. Okay, so I said reference is different, but here it's the same. Okay, so let's go into these. So, for example, Nature Geoscience is a very famous journal in this field. And National Geographic Medicine, you should know that. So they can talk about the same thing, but the ways that you talk about it, the depth that you talk about it will be very different. Okay, and the next will be structuring. So as you know, in general English writing, we usually have 3 parts: introduction, body, and conclusion. That's common in any kind of English writing. And in academic writing, we also have something very similar. We have an introduction. And for the body, we may have something similar. It's the method or methods, results. And last will be discussion. So that's also similar to a conclusion. So you can actually try to migrate this kind of structure into a more academic context. So there's a kind of, it's actually similar. Okay, the last part is about referencing. So in fact, when we are writing anything, we reference others. But the difference will be, usually in a research paper, we want first-hand findings, first-hand information. Because you will not cite someone who cited another person's work. You will try to find the original proposal or the original author's work. And you will have your own objective analysis. And this becomes your research. And for general writing, you have facts, you have findings, but it's usually secondary. For example, I saw news. I want to write something about this issue. Then the information is more secondary. But it's not like in academic writing, we don't cite news articles very often because usually the information there is not that first-hand. And for general writing, it's more about your own personal perspective. It's more subjective, and that becomes your personal reaction. And usually, we reference others, but in academic writing, there are citations, but in general writing, there aren't any citations, or there are very few citations. Okay, so these are 3 similarities I think you should know about. And next, let's talk about how to write academically. So first of all, I would like to share something called the STOP method. So before you start, there's something you need to think about. So what are something you need to think about? So we have STOP, stop, but you don't have to start with S. You can start with P, O, T, R, K. So let's start with the first one, to stop. You can think about sources. So if you want to write a paper on something, you need to think about what are some previous findings. Where can you find that? Right? Because in your research, you can't write something that's completely new right now. It's always based on something else. So what are the sources? Can you find them? Or is it easy to get for you? If it's very hard to get the sources, probably it's a piece of writing that's hard to be done. Okay, the next will be topic, of course. What do you want to write about? What's the focus of the essay, the writing? Is it specific? Is it something that's already very well known, or is a very new idea that are rarely researched? And you can also think about your purpose. So is your purpose argumentative? Is your purpose persuasive? Is it evaluative or declarative? And last one will be orientation. So for the same topic or issue, like global warming, what kind of angle would you take? So that's your orientation. Which side do you want to talk about? So this is a stop method that you can think about before you start writing a paper. Okay, now let's take a look at a process. This is a very general process that you can use. So when you have think about your sources, your topic, your purpose, and your orientation, now you need to come up with a title. And I'm not talking about final title, it's a working title. So that's okay for now, but you need to have a title at least when you start writing. Okay, then you need generate ideas, you need brainstorming, because when you want to write one thing, it's not enough to just have like one idea, maybe you need more before you actually put them into writing. Okay, you search for information, and of course outlining is important because this will affect your structures, your organization of your paper, drafting, revising, and finalizing. So that's a process that you can generally follow, and at least I think you should start with your title, and you need to do some background research before you start. Okay, so let's talk about the structure. I'm not sure if you are familiar with this, but this is a very famous format that a lot of people use. It's called INRD or INRAD. So who knows what's INRAD? Who would like to share with us? Anyone? If you're not familiar, that's okay. So I can tell you what's INRAD. Okay, so it's actually what we have said in the previous previous slide. So I is introduction, and is method or methods, results, and discussion. So this is a general structure that you can follow. But you may think, is it real that we only need 4 sections in the paper? Maybe not. So there's another one that you can try to take a look at. This is a modified INRAD format. So here there's one more, literature review. So you need to take a look at previous findings, and you have some comments on the previous findings. And sometimes there will be a separate part called conclusion. Sometimes it's not always the same. So you talk about why you want to do this research in your introduction, how you did or how you are going to do it, the methods, and what have you got in the result. And so what, right? So you talk about your result in the results part, but you comment on your result in the discussion. Okay, so people will know, oh, why is it important? Why is it necessary to know this? Okay, and maybe this is not enough for you. Probably you can try this one. Another modified INRAD format. So this one is more complete, and it's just like how a scientific paper looks like. So of course you have a title, abstract. So when we start the abstract, we start writing the abstract usually at the end of the process. After we finish the paper, we start writing the abstract. Okay, so it's the same. We have introduction, methods, results, discussion. And this one more is called study site. So this one is one that you may need to elaborate more in your paper if you are doing scientific research, because where you did it may vary a lot. Okay, and sometimes we have a conclusion, or you can put your conclusion in the discussion. And acknowledgement, references. So this one is more complete. This is how a paper usually looks like. Okay, next I will talk about some more minute details in writing. First one, I would like to talk about cohesion. Cohesion is, to make it simpler, is connections. Sometimes you write a lot of things. They are very good. They are persuasive, they are informative, but sometimes they are not connected in a logical way. So cohesion is quite important. But how can you make your writing more cohesive? So there are 4 cohesive devices that you can follow. So you can take a look at them. So there are 4. We have repeated words. So you can actually repeat words to make your writing cohesive. I know when you are in high school, teachers say, don't use the same word, try someone else. But sometimes using the same word make your writing more cohesive. I'm not talking about always, but it's useful. And I think academic writing or in academic speaking, it's not always true that you have to change the words all the time. So you can actually use the same words. Okay, next one will be reference words. This one is more grammatical. It's like this, that, they, it. But when you are using this, be careful because sometimes you may confuse your readers. And we have thematic development. I will talk about this more. And last one is show nouns. So show nouns are general terms that can cover one thing. So there are some examples like this issue, this trend, the challenge, the effect. These are show nouns that you can use to improve cohesion between your sentences or paragraphs when you are referring to a previous idea or previous action, previous study. Okay, so let me talk more about this thematic development. So thematic development, some people just say theme and ring. If you're not familiar with theme and ring, probably you can just remember it as topic and comment. So there's a piece of sample article. It's about virus transmission. So you can see that in the first sentence, virus transmission can be reduced by frequent washing of hands, use of face masks, and isolation of infected individuals. So you can see that the subject in the sentence, virus transmission, is the theme, is a topic. And you have some comments, so there's a ring for the theme. So it's like you can reduce it by A, B, C, and D. And then the next sentence will be these methods. So this theme is the ring of the previous sentence. So they are connected. So this is also a way that you use show nouns, right? You use these methods to refer to the previous methods like frequent washing of hands, use of face masks, and isolation of infected individuals. So then these two sentences look connected, look cohesive. So this is one way that you can make your writing more cohesive. Okay, and there's a practice that you can try, because I think someone asked how to practice writing, and there's one way to practice it. So you can actually select a piece of writing from a textbook or from a journal article from in your study, in your area, in your disciplines. Then you choose a paragraph and underline or highlight all the different forms of cohesion used. So all kinds of cohesive devices. There are actually more than 4. I just chose 4 of them to share with you. So there are like linking words, referring backwards, looking forwards, adding synonyms. And you can take a look at what forms are the most common. Okay, so maybe you would know, oh, in this paper, the author used a lot of skills to refer backwards. So you can learn how others write. And number 4, choose a couple that you think are effective and practice using them in your own writing. So because you have seen a lot in somebody else's writing, then you can try it yourself in your own writing, because if you want to write better, you need practice. And last one, try to use a variety of ways to show the relationship between ideas. So in addition to the 2, you can try more. It's more experimental, but when you are practicing it, you will know that which way is more effective for you, which way is more useful for you. Okay, next. How to sound academic. Okay, so I think you have also answered this question in the very first interactive part. So somebody said, oh, you have to be formal. And you need to use proper nouns, so probably technical terms. And you need to sound impersonal, so it's not like you are expressing your personal feelings. So if you write very formally and technically, and you can sound more authoritative. Because when you are writing a paper or writing anything, you want to know that, or you want to let the readers feel that you are right. You want to convince your readers. So using formal languages or technical terms will make you more authoritative. And for impersonal, if you are impersonal, then you sound more objective, because we want to show that, oh, my findings are true in some circumstances. It's not just my personal views, not my personal my personal perspective. It's more objective. Okay, and there are 5 things that you can follow. So formality, objectivity, precision, hedging, and explicit links. I will talk about that one by one. So formality, any ideas about how to sound formal? Anyone? If you want to sound formal, what kind of language can you use? Okay, my examples are very simple. So first you can, first one I have said that you avoid contractions. We don't use don't, can't, won't, things like that. And we use more formal vocabulary words. For example, maybe the number of respondents. So you would say the number of respondents is insufficient. And you would not say, maybe you would not say, the number of respondents is not enough. So the previous one sounds more formal, right? So you can try to use words like this, but of course not enough can be used if they sound okay within your writing or sentences. And choose less emotional language. So I think someone also said it, not emotional. So for example, this result, we would not say, oh, this result is terrible, right? It sounds like what you would write on Facebook posts. So you say, oh, it's problematic. So it's less emotional, it sounds more objective. Use technical terms, so maybe something like phonological rules, something like this. More formal grammar structures, but not talking about making everything extremely complicated. So you can use something like this, maybe in academic writing. I think a lot of people like to do this, nominalization. They like to use nouns, right? So for example, I would say the ABC is very important, right? But I may change the way of writing in academic writing. I would say, oh, the importance of the ABC is undeniable, something like this. So you will use nouns you use more nouns in academic writing. Okay, so following these principles can make your writing more formal. How about this? How about objective? How about objectivity? So there are 3 things that you can do. The first one is emphasize ideas instead of people or feelings. So in academic writing, we don't really like to start the sentence with I or we or the author. Not very often, because we want to emphasize the ideas, the results, the facts. So there is an example sentence that you can take a look at. I believe the method is effective based on the findings. So you can actually rephrase it and make it more objective by writing. The finding indicates the effectiveness of the method. So in this one, I also use nominalization, right? Effective, effectiveness. That's also one way to do it. Okay, next will be avoid evaluated words based on non-technical terms or non-technical judgments. So these kind of evaluated terms, words, are usually adverbs or adjectives like sadly, disappointment, amazing. These sounds not objective. Okay, the last one is to use modality to allow room for others to disagree. So that's also another thing that we will talk about later. We try to be convincing, we try to be authoritative, but we don't want to be, we don't want to say that we are the true solution or the only solution. So we would say something like this. There is sufficient evidence to support the possibility that the teaching of phonetic symbols increases students' phonological awareness. So I am saying, personally, I think this is true. I think we should teach phonetic symbols. But I cannot say it in academic writing. So I would say, sufficient evidence, support the possibility that something is good. So that's a way that we write to make it more objective, and that's what you will see in an academic paper. Okay, the next one will be precision. So we want to be precise, right? We want to be accurate. So we use figures or values if possible. So we don't say, oh, there are several respondents. Just tell me 5 out of 27 respondents said easy. And try not to use some words that are very vague. I'm saying things that this thing is very important, this issue. Avoid making vague claims by citing sources. So if you are saying oh, something is very important, but you can't just say, I feel like it's important. But you will cite sources that also believe this is important. So you reference others' work or cite someone's sentences, words to support your ideas, and your claim will sound more convincing. Next one, number 4, hedging, or you can say this is so-called tentative language. So we do not want to be extremely absolute. So we do not say always the first. There's another example. How many students often make mistakes with the plural form? How many students always make mistakes with the plural form? So in any kind of research, you cannot prove that it's always like this. So you will not say this. Like the first, it's hard to say Mr. Johnson is the first one that proposed this idea. We don't know who is the first one. Or it's very, very hard to prove that it's the first one. So we don't use words that are this absolute to avoid problematic writing in your paper. Okay, the last one is about explicit links. So we want connections. So use transition words to make connections clear. So for example, in addition, so these are very common in general writing, but you also need it in academic writing. But please remember, there are a lot of things that you need to cover in academic writing, but you don't have to always have transition words or transition signals in every sentence. Sometimes people use too many transitions, and that sounds not very fluent in the writing. Okay, next, referencing. So that's another question that I want to hear about you. So you can still go to poep.com/Ariston620 to answer this question. How do you reference someone's work in writing? Because that's very important in academic writing. So just write down something and let's see what you think about referencing. Well, not that prepared, but it's fine. Just yeah. So how to reference others. So I give you a little time, you can think about it. Okay. Okay, so someone said, using your journal's preferred citation style. Okay. Yeah, so this is the first one, the first time that we mentioned referencing style. Okay, follow the MLA format. Plain or do you want to say citation? If you are thinking about APA or MLA, so I'm guessing someone from you or some of you are from social sciences or humanities background. How about others? How to reference others in your writing. Seeing somebody say APA, MLA, you can also think about the style, the referencing style that your department or your area of study usually follow. Okay, so this is an example of how to reference the author in the writing, right? So parenthesis or brackets, author, comma, year, or author, brackets, year, bracket. Citation generator website. Okay, so I think most of you talk about citation. You need to follow a certain referencing style. So that's true. Anything else? Anything else? Before I move on? Okay, since there aren't any ideas. So there's another one that you can follow. It's called equip principle. So you can remember this, EQUIP, equip. The first is endnotes. I think you have heard of endnotes, but it's not the endnote that you are thinking about in your head. Quote, unchanged language, in text and paraphrase. Okay, so who knows endnotes? Endnote? Anyone? The endnote that you think about. You think about when you see this. Okay, so if you do research, probably you know EndNote is a software, right? It's a software program. But here, I'm talking about the reference list at the end of your piece, to the end note. So you need to have a clear reference list in your writing. It's usually at the end of the paper, and sometimes it's not called references. It's called bibliography if you are following a Michigan style that you use with orthography. So you write out all the references that you use. So that's one way you need to do when you are writing based on someone else's finding. And it's also recommended that you do it when you are writing or when you are doing background research. Because when you finish writing and you want to compile the reference list, that will be very hard because you may not be able to find the same paper easily. Okay, next will be quotes. So if you want to quote somebody's words, and you want to use the specific language that a person uses, then you need to quote the person's words. And you put that in quotation marks, and you provide in-text citation. So if that's a quote, usually you need to specify the page number. And sometimes in some referencing styles, paragraph number is also required. So it depends on which style you follow. So I think someone said author year, right? That's the way that when we need to do, when we are quoting someone, and you also need the page number if you use the original language that the author used. If that's very long, then you have an isolated paragraph for the quotes. Okay. And next one, unchanged language. So, because if you are quoting someone, then you cannot change his or her words. If you really have to change something because it doesn't sound right, then you need to use square brackets. I think this is also used in news article writing. So, for example, a respondent said, I think this are important, something like this. But it should be this is, right? So you use a square bracket to put is there to tell the readers that, oh, the original is not is, it's something else, but it should be is. Usually we only change things like this, maybe grammatical errors that we need to correct it. But we don't change the original meaning, because if you change the meaning, then you don't need to quote the person's words. Okay, in text. So in text citation is how you cite in the text. So it's different from style to style. So there are like APA, MLA, Chicago, Harvard. So you need to follow the style. Like in APA or MLA, I think we use bracketed in-text references. So we put the author and here in the parentheses. But I think in Chicago, they like to use a footnote. So that's different in different styles. So you need to check the styles before when you are writing. Okay, and the last one, P, is about paraphrase. So when you want to reference others' word, it's not direct quotation. You need to paraphrase the person's word. But you still need to put the person's paper in a reference list because it's not your idea. It's from someone else, but you paraphrase it to put it into writing. Okay, so I think we talked about paraphrasing, but how to paraphrase. So there are 4 ways you can try. And although I say there are 4 ways, usually when we paraphrase, we try to do all of the 4 at the same time. Because if you just change the words, just change the word forms, it looks too similar to the original. So we try to change everything from words, word forms, word order, and even structures. So there is an example you can take a look at. I will give you a little time to read this passage. It's from a Harvard Business Review. So take a look at it. And then I will show you 2 different versions of paraphrase. And you will decide which one is a better one. Okay, so take a look at it. In recent years, a body of research has revealed another, more nuanced benefit of workplace diversity. Non-homogeneous teams are simply smarter. Working with people who are different from you may challenge your brain to overcome its stale way of thinking and sharpen its performance. Okay, so this is the original. I'll give you 30 seconds more to think about this. Then I will show you the first version of paraphrase. Okay, so let's take a look at the first version. You can still read it on your own. In the last few years, a collection of research has shown another more nuanced advantage of workplace diversity. Diverse teams are simply better. Working with people who are unlike you, they encourage your brain to lose its old way of thinking and improve its performance. Okay, so do you think this is a good paraphrase? Okay, I will still give you more time to think about it before I let you vote for whether it's good or bad. Okay, I think that's it. So it's the paragraph well paraphrase. So you still use the same website. Try to vote for, oh, is it true? Is this a good paraphrase, or no, it's not a good paraphrase? Now think about the 4 principles. Change words, change word forms, change word order, change structures. Nobody votes for true. Okay, now more people think that's true. That's good. Because, non-homogeneous teams are smarter, right? According to our Okay. Most people think it's not very good. Okay, I think that's it. So 88% of you think, oh, that's not very good in terms of paraphrasing. How about the next version of this one? Take a look at that. Recent research has revealed that working in diverse teams can stimulate your creativity and efficiency, advocating the benefits of workplace diversity. Okay, so is it true or false for the second version? Is it good? Okay, there's some people who think that, oh, more people think that's false this time. 60% of you think that's true, and like 40% of you think that's not true. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so the number for going false is a little bit fewer. Okay, so let's go back to the first version. So does anyone want to share why it's good or bad? Because yeah, you vote for that, right? And who is brave enough to share why you think it's good and why you think it's bad? Anyone? Nobody? Okay, that's fine. Okay, sure.
I think although they changed the word and word choice, but the structure and also the order of the word is too similar from the original.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. Yeah, that's very good. That's true. So the person, someone, changed the words, the word forms, but not the word order or the structures. So maybe this is not a very good paraphrase. And for this one, more people think this is not good. Anyone who wants to share why you think it's bad or why you think it's good? In the original exercise, this one should be the good one because it changed the orders, changed the structures, changed the words, changed the forms. And it also summarized the ideas that's in the original text. So that's another thing you can do. You can try to summarize some more important things for you in your writing because you want to emphasize some ideas. Okay, so that's paraphrasing. So when you do citation or referencing, paraphrasing is very useful and it's actually a necessary or essential skill for you. Okay, next. Okay, and somebody asks, oh, what are some common mistakes? So there are some mistakes that I think some people would make. So let's start with the first one, sentence for us. And I have to say, for non-native speakers, I think most errors or most mistakes are more grammatical or more linguistic because we are non-native speakers. So I will talk about, I think there are 12, and more of them are grammatical or linguistic errors. So the first one is sentence fragment. So you did not finish a sentence. Of course, that's common in our writing because in Chinese, we don't have to finish a sentence by doing anything. We just want to finish it and it's finished. So in English there is grammar, so you need to follow grammar and finish your sentence. And the next one is faulty parallelism. So sometimes you want to make things parallel, it looks good. This can do A, B, and C. But sometimes the verb doesn't go with B and C. It only goes with A. So the parallelism is not really parallel. So that's also something you need to watch out. And next one is also very important, unclear pronoun reference. In the previous slides, we said, oh, you can use reference words to make the writing more cohesive. But you need to use it well. Because if you use it unclearly, then the reader will not know, oh, who are you talking about? This it is about which it. But there could be many it's that the reader might refer to. So you need to be clear when you want to refer to a previous person, previous idea, or previous issue. Incorrect comma usage. Sometimes we use too many commas. Sometimes we use too few commas. So you need to think about it. Whether this comma is necessary, does it improve the clarity of writing, or it's not necessary. The sentence is very short. Probably you don't need a comma. Okay, how about others? Comma splices. So sometimes people combine sentences using a comma. So let me give you a very simple example. I like apples. I like apples. I hate banana, something like this. So in this case, there are two ways to do it. You can put a period, a full stop between the sentences, right? Or you can use a conjunction like buts. But you cannot use a comma to connect the two sentences because comma is not used to connect two sentences. Also, this is also one thing that many Taiwanese or non-native speakers will make when they're writing anything in English. And subject-verb agreement, sometimes in academic writing, the subject is more complex. It could be one person or a series of action or something. Then the verb has to be plural or singular. So you need to be very careful when you're writing this, especially the sentence is very long. Sometimes when we work on the latter part of a sentence, we forget about the subject. What's the subject? And the last one, I think, is more important. If the sentences are too long, and they are very confusing. In academic writing, sentences are usually longer, but it doesn't mean that we have to make it very long. So we still aim for clarity. So if you can write long, but it's clear, then it's okay. But very often it's too long and you miss the subject or the connection is wrong. There could be confusion when a reader is reading your piece. Okay, the last one, the next one will be incorrect citation. So, such as the styles, because referencing style is quite comprehensive. It covers all kinds of citations. Then you need to make sure that you are using a right style. Sometimes you need to provide a page number. Sometimes you need to make the page number italic, something like that. So it's just one thing that you need to bear in mind before you actually submit your paper. You have to be very careful. And the last four will be, first one, poor referencing. So it's also connected to citation. Sometimes you cite or reference somebody's work, but you forget to put it in the reference list. Now cohesive, so we have talked about this. And 11 is also important. Your writing may be too descriptive because that's a research paper. You need more analysis in your writing, in your paper. And last one is first person, because in Chinese, we like to write 第一者本作, something like this. But in English, it's not a very good choice for academic writers to start with first person subject. So you can think about these areas before you write or when you are writing. And there's another good resource that you can use at the end of your writing process. This is the writing editing checklist. If you want to get this, you can Google it. Somebody from the University of Western Cape wrote a book or online paper. It's called Guide to Academic Writing. You can Google it and you'll find it, or you can remember the URI number. Okay. So in the checklist, there are different parts, and I think the checklist can actually cover like most important things that you have to remember for academic writing. So structure and organization, argument, there's also a part of plagiarism, interpretation, and references, and style. So it's more about the format, spelling and grammar, presentation and layout, how it looks. And yeah, so that's a checklist that you can follow when you can check when you are going to finish your writing. Okay, so now I'm going to share some resources that you may think is helpful. So let's start with vocabulary. I'm not sure if you have heard of this academic word list. Who has ever read this list? Anyone? I think AWL is quite famous, but very few people actually read this list. So it's not what I'm going to recommend. There are, I think, more than 500 word families. So there are lots. If you need to remember all the words, it's kind of hard. So we can start with something easier. So there is another one. It's the vocabulary for writing essays from the Learning Center at the University of Sydney. So they have just one single A4 page, and there are a lot of words that is useful for any research paper in any fields. So when you need attribution, endorsement, conjunction, modality, or evaluation, there are words that you can definitely use in any research paper. So like this, there are a lot of reporting verbs, right? Somebody discusses, states, expresses, conjunctions, in addition, furthermore, modality, right? Occasionally, generally, actually, something. And we want to use an evaluated terms, important, significant, problematic, limited. So this one is very good. It's only one A4 page. So that will be easier for you to start. So that one is good. You can start with this if you don't know what kind of words that you can use in academic writing. Okay, another one is called eapfoundation.com. You can Google this website, and they have a section called quizzes. And this one requires a login, but it's free to register for an account. So they have things like this. This is for basic vocabulary practice. So something like this. But it's academic. You can look at their question. Data and research findings that are understood cannot be used to improve practice. This is the academic sentence. So you can practice vocabulary with questions using academic examples. You will always misunderstood. Okay. So there are a lot how you can try it online. And they also have something like the show nows. So polar bears are covering long, dense fur and have an insulating layer of body fat under the skin deep have helped them to survive in the cold Arctic environment. And you know, we need to use characteristics, right? So, but these are also, the options are all words that you would need in academic writing. And they also have something like this. It's for connections, right? So if you want to express the compare and contrast relationship, causal effect, causal relations, there are also exercises for this. So additional, in addition, another, for this question. They also have something like this. We need to analyze the data before we continue. To analyze, what does it mean? Look at it in detail. Right? So that's an online quiz that you can try if you don't know how to start. This is one thing you can help yourself to familiarize with academic English. Okay, there's another exercise like this. This one is about style problems. So, right? Like something is not academic, right? Go up is less academic, and lots of, right? Always. So there are a lot of problems that you can try to spot and practice. Okay, and if you forget how to paraphrase, there's another good video. I think it's short and simple. It's only 6 minutes and 37 seconds. So you can Google, you can YouTube it. You can search it on YouTube. how to paraphrase made by the Queensland University of Technology. And this one is very simple. You can just know how to paraphrase in 6 minutes. So this is also very useful. Okay, and if you want to practice paraphrase but you don't know how to start, this is an easy one for you. There's a website. You can subscribe to the upgraded version, or you can use the free version. I only use the free version because I'm too mean to try. Okay, so so working. For example, I want to write 50 respondents agreed with this statement. But I have written something like this once in my writing, and I want to have a different version. Then you can type it in the box and click rewrite. And there will be some other options. So like this statement was endorsed by 50 respondents. There were 50 respondents who agree with this statement. According to the survey, 50 respondents agree with this statement. The statement was endorsed by 50 other respondents. So this is a basic practice for you to practice paraphrasing. But this is more basic. But you can see that there are something different also. The word structure, the word order is different. And in this one, you also add some information that is true. Because if you have respondents, then you must have a survey, right? So you can also add this. Okay, and the next one, this is a checklist that I have said. So you can remember this, you can find it. It's online and it's free to download. Okay, next, somebody asked that, is there a website that can help me correct my grammar? There are a lot. I think you know Grammarly, but I don't want to recommend that because everybody knows. So you can try this one checker. I used it when I was in college. So you can use it online or you can download. You can install it on your computer as well. So you can put it there and there will be some recommendations or suggestions. And they will also give you a report like this. Also, spelling mistake, grammar mistakes, other mistakes, how your vocabulary outstanding, your structure exceeds expectation. So you can use this. Now, of course, some suggestions may not be very useful for you. So you can determine whether it's really something that you have to change. But you can try it. It's free. You can use the online version or you can download it. Okay, and the next few one will be more language oriented. So of course, if you don't know how to write sentences more effectively, collocation dictionary will be helpful. For example, I want to say the importance of something that I don't know which verb goes with importance. And you can try this, right? Verb plus importance. How is not good enough for me. Assume, decline. So probably demonstrate, illustrate, indicate, point to, reflect, show, suggest what the something means. And there are example sentences, right? Figure 2.2 shows the relative importance of the different service industries. Right? So you can take a look at how it is written, and you can try to use the suggested words for your reference. And in fact, this one is not an official one, but somebody made it and put it online. So you can use it, or if you want to support Oxford, you can buy it in your dictionary. They have a CD-ROM in your dictionary. And next one is also very common, very famous, is COCA, the Corpus of Contemporary American English. So you can use this. I think right now you need to register for an account, but if you use the school's email, it's free. And sometimes the app may pop up, but it's fine. You can just close it. So for example, I want to know how to use reaffirm. Reaffirm. So there will be here type of article, the source URL. You can listen to it or you can translate it. There's a short version of the original sentence, and if you click the sentence, it can show you the entire paragraph. So the paragraph is from a blog, and it's this, 2012. What's the topic, what's the title, and the entire paragraph is here. So you can take a look at how others write. You can also choose, or you can limit your research results. Right? You can limit your search results to a certain type of writing. So you can actually exclude all the results on blogs. I think there are others like articles, fictions, things like that. And the next one is lingo. I don't know if you have heard of it. If you're interested in that, we will have a talk by Dr. Zhang next month, and he's the founder of lingo. So you can also use this. I want to know what word I can put here. So I type reaffirms the noun of something. So it will show up, reaffirms the importance of something. So I can reaffirm the importance, reaffirm the right, commitment, the validity, value, necessity. And if you click it, it will show the original sentence. So you can also take a look at how others write. Okay, and the last, I think probably the last one. The last resource is for you if you don't know how to start. After this one, you want to start practicing academic writing, but you don't have any clear goal or directions. Probably you can try this. It's a free online self-paced course by BBC One English. It's called Go the Distance Academic Writing. And it's self-paced, so there isn't a teacher or tutor assistant. But you can try it. It's free, and I think you don't have to sign in. So you can try this. Okay, and now it comes to your questions. I got only 5 questions when you made your opponents. So the first one, do you have any recommended websites for correcting grammar? So I think One Checker or Grammarly, a lot of websites can do this. But the point is that you need to make the adjustment. Do you have to change this? Okay, the second one, how to train, how to develop your writing skills. So I think for academic writing, you can at least start writing something. Maybe something like a course report. And you can follow the principles that are covered in the presentation, and at least your writing will sound more academic, or like the STOP method, equip method, or IMRD format. Okay, and are there any writing principles or writing guidelines? So just like what I have said, maybe the equip principle is quite useful when you are writing academic papers. And structure, you can follow the IMRD modified one. Okay, are there any recommended materials for English, academic English writing, for examples that I follow? How to make sure I write academically. Okay, so I think for academic writing materials, there are a lot. If you Google it, there are a lot by famous publishers like Oxford, Cambridge, John Benjamin's. So I'm not going to recommend anyone in English because you can find them, and they are famous enough. I don't have to recommend them. But you can first check out the book by Dr. Liao. If you know Dr. Liao is our director, he has very good books for academic writing. And there are also others you can take a look at for, began from a 文科背景, so there are some books for 文科. And there are some books you can check out. 研究生完全求真实的教授为什么没告诉我? Yeah, so these are books you can take a look at when you want to start learning academic writing. So you can take a look at these. Okay, and we have the last question from you. How can we practice to improve our research paper writing skills? How to paraphrase correctly when quoting other research paper? Or common mistakes made when writing papers that we should avoid. I think I've covered a few of them, so think about that. Okay, so before. Okay, so the last suggestion is finding a partner. So work on your writing with a fellow writer. So why do you need to find a person to work with you? Because writing is interactive. You can't just write and nobody reads, and that's not writing, right? You read your diary, right, sometimes. You need to receive feedback, and it's lonely, you know. It's tiring, so you need someone to work with you. And you can develop when you practice more. And because there's no set formula, so you need suggestion, feedback from others. And sometimes you feel anxious, and you may experience writer's block. So if you have a partner, then they can help you with this. So how do you find a partner? Do you know how? Maybe you can find a classmate, a friend from college, or if you can't find any, the Center for Academic Literacy has a group of awesome tutors that can help you with writing. Because remember, we are tutors, we are not teachers. We don't teach you how to write, but we help you. We accompany you in the journey of writing. So if you feel lonely, you need someone to tell you to talk about your writing, you can come to our center. And if you want to practice, you need someone to read your work, right? Then you can come to our center. So yeah, you're welcome to sign up for one-on-one sessions for academic writing. And of course, speaking. Okay, so I think that's almost it. So it's 3:18 now. Do you have any questions? If don't, we will have the lucky draw started.
Thank you, Aaron, for such a wonderful talk. I think during this workshop, you tried to give us a lot of information regarding how to do academic writing and a lot of resources and models. I saw a lot of you taking pictures, and I'm really happy that you did a lot of interactive activities. So a lot of you are really responsive to Aaron's questions. So thank you so much for that. And right now we're going to show you the QR code of our survey so that we can learn from your team about how to log our workshop. So this can help us to know a little bit better about our future workshop planning. So feel free to scan the QR code for this quick response. And then after we all fill out the survey, we're gonna have a raffle. So we're going to have this lucky draw with our prize from NTNU official souvenir. And then at the end, we're going to have a group photo. So if you're willing to